What's up everyone, and welcome back for part 2 of the Tri-Slosher guide. My name is Gus, and for this video, we'll be going over the Nouveau variant of the Tri-Slosher. In part 1, I covered how to use the vanilla Tri while also covering extensively the main weapon strengths, weaknesses, advanced techniques, and mindset you want to have with the Tri-Slosher. I won't be going over in detail the specific things about the main weapon in this video, so if you haven't gotten a chance to watch part 1, it's okay. I'll do a brief recap for the main weapon before going more into detail about the Nouveau kit. Also, I just want to say thank you so much for your patience on this video. I've been out of town and work has gotten really busy. I really try to make these quality videos for you all, so I appreciate the time you give me to make these guides. If you found this video helpful or if you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Comment, let me know what your thoughts are on the Tri-Slosher Nouveau. It's the best way to support me and the work that I do for this channel, and it really does help in getting the videos recommended to people outside of my YouTube circle. With that out of the way, let's get started with learning about the Tri-Slosher Nouveau. Let's briefly recap the main weapon's strengths, weaknesses, and advanced techniques that we discussed in part 1 of the Tri Guide. If you already watched part 1, click on this timestamp to skip ahead to get started on learning about the Tri-Slosher Nouveau. The main strengths of the main weapon is that it has a fast fire rate, a good hitbox, and good damage. It throws ink in 3 directions, with the middle slosh having the most range. Because of how it spreads, it has a generous hitbox. Any of the 3 shots do 62 damage, unless you're at a significant height difference, because then you'll get fall off damage. Its fire rate is pretty fast, and it's pretty noticeable when you play in compared to a slosher or a sloshing machine, for example. These attributes help it be one of the best frontline weapons where you can punish people for their hyper-aggression or bad positioning. Tri basically has 2 weaknesses, its dependency on map control and its lack of range. It can paint decently, but it isn't going to be your main painter. Luckily, with the Tri-Slosher Nouveau, you actually have a kit that supports its painting capabilities, so it won't struggle as much as the vanilla kit to get into enemy space and pressure from a distance and paint the map. As for the range, it's a bit shorter than some common Slayer weapons such as the splatter shot, so that's why it's important to close the gap between you and your opponents. So it's really good to know how to shark and stealth swim to sneak up on them. Sharking is basically when you hide in your own ink, you wait for someone to be close enough and you pick them off. As for stealth swimming, it's when you swim very slowly to reduce the ripples that happen when you swim fast. It's basically Ninja Squid without using the ability Ninja Squid. These 2 techniques are to help you be stealthy. Since Tri can catch people off guard, knowing these 2 techniques will help you in picking off the opponent more efficiently. Overall, the basics you need to know is that Tri is one of the best main weapons in the game that is extremely good at fighting. If you want to know more about the specifics about the main weapon, I recommend watching part 1 of the Tri-Slosher guide, which I have linked down in the description below. The Tri-Slosher Nouveau is the second kit for the Tri-Slosher. Like its predecessors, this variant comes with the Nouveau sticker on the side, but what's different in Splatoon 3 is that the handle also changes colors between variants. Rather than just maintaining the yellow handle from the vanilla variant, it gets a light blue handle, which looks pretty cool and it matches the color scheme of the bucket. It's not the most drastic change between variants, but it's a change that at least sets them apart, which is always appreciated considering that Splatoon 1 and Splatoon 2 didn't really do that. In my opinion, the Nouveau kits always had a trend of having a more supportive kit compared to the vanilla variant. In Splatoon 1, it had Seeker and Echolocator, a kit that helped in identifying the enemy to pick them off, whereas in Splatoon 2, it had Splat Bomb and Inkstorm, which gave it tools to poke aggressively, displace the opponent, and take up space from a distance. In Splatoon 3, it's equipped with Fizzy Bomb and Tacticooler, which fulfills a hybrid playstyle if I'm being honest, and it slightly differentiates the playstyle from a vanilla Tri-Slosher where you can have an aggressive approach and a supportive approach. So when it comes to its playstyle, like I briefly mentioned already, it's able to have a hybrid role which is different from the vanilla variant's aggressive role. With this kit, the Tri-Nouveau can still play that aggressive playstyle, but will have the tools to support their teammates by having a sub that can paint and poke, and a special that not only gives you a boost to your teammates, but complements the Tri by giving you abilities to make you a stronger Slayer to create openings for your team. With Fizzy Bomb, Tri gains one of the best subs in the game given the sub's ability to do a multitude of things. It can paint, cause chip damage, get picks, create area denial, and give you a main and sub weapon combo. It can do so many things to support your Slayer and support playstyle capabilities. And with Tacticooler, this hybrid playstyle is only improved. With this special, Tri is given a special that improves its ability to be a more proficient Slayer. Once you get your drink from the special, you aim to get picks or at the minimum, trades. People talk about Tri-Slosher mains just going all in to fight, and well, Cooler improves your chances of winning fights, and if you die, you come right back to continue your Tri-Slosher shenanigans. And the cool thing about Cooler is that you're not the only one that benefits from it, because your teammates can also get the effects from the Tacticooler. In essence, the Nouveau has a kit that affords it to have various roles in the match, depending on your team composition, situations in the matches, and more. It can be a Slayer, it can be a support, it's a hybrid weapon where you should take into account the flexibility it can afford. It has one of the best subs and one of the better specials currently. So to give you a better understanding of how the kit should complement this hybrid playstyle, let's first take a look at Fizzy Bomb. Fizzy Bomb is arguably one of the best subs right now alongside Splat Bomb and Burst Bomb, and that's because of its versatility. It can paint, help you with mobility, poke the enemy, create area denial, pick people off, while only costing 60% of your ink tank, which is notable when other subs that do a similar job cost more than 60%. Depending on how long you charge it, it'll determine the range and overall damage of the bomb. So with this sub, if you throw it without a charge, it'll be thrown in a straight line. It has a direct damage of 50 and an indirect damage of 35. At glance, if you were unfamiliar with the charge mechanic, this probably doesn't look that impressive, but when you fully charge it, it explodes 3 times, with each explosion moving forward a small amount, and this basically gives you more range, covers more ground, and has the opportunity to cause more damage. The simplest way to charge the Fizzy Bomb is by holding R. You'll know when it's fully charged when it clicks twice and 2 additional circles appear on the sub reticle. You can increase the speed of the charge for this sub. The 3 additional inputs you can do is mashing the jump button, moving the L stick quickly, or shaking the controller while using motion controls. You don't have to do all 3, but the more you incorporate these charge mechanics, it'll help you in charging it faster to throw it sooner. I personally just jump and move the L stick to charge my Fizzy Bomb, and I feel that is enough to make the charge speed faster, and it doesn't make it awkward for me to hold the controller. So because of its versatility, how are we going to use it for the Tri? Well, we can use it for a lot of things honestly, but to make it simple, first we can use it to strengthen Tri's aggro tendencies because it combos well with the main weapon, and second, we can use it to support your teammates by allowing you to paint and pressure from a distance. First, let's cover the most simplest thing about it, and that's its capabilities of being a lethal bomb to pick people off. Like I mentioned earlier, each explosion inflicts 50 damage against nearby opponents and 35 damage against those that are slightly further. So if you have a fully charged Fizzy Bomb, and if an opponent is hit by 2 of those direct hits, they're dead. When a bomb is thrown towards someone's feet, most people's gut reaction is to back up. But because Fizzy Bomb moves forward with each additional charge, the enemy may not have enough time to react and they'll die to the Fizzy Bomb. You can also combo with the sub with the Tri-Slosher. If at least one of the direct explosions hits the enemy for 50 HP, you can follow up with the Tri-Slosher's 62 damage for the pick. Always pay attention to how much damage you do to the opponent. The more damage they are, the more they are covered by your ink. This will inform you if you go in for the 50 plus 62 combo or wait because the Fizzy Bomb only did 35 damage, which wouldn't combo with the Tri-Slosher. You can always change the range of the sub to support your Tri's range for 1v1s for example. If you anticipate someone rushing you, throw your Fizzy Bomb closer to your feet so it's within damage range of your Tri-Slosher. Please also remember because it's a lethal bomb, it can damage or destroy objects as well. The more you charge it, the more damage it does. So this could be useful when you need to pop the Rainmaker, which is a mode that Tri-Slosher Nouveau excels in, or where you're in a safe distance and want to throw Fizzy Bombs towards a crab tank. Another cool thing about this sub is that it really covers 2 of the Tri-Slosher's weaknesses. First is Tri's painting capabilities. Fizzy Bomb paints extremely well while being a cheap, ink-efficient sub that is also lethal. When you play with the V-Tri, you'll soon realize that you do not have the tools to comfortably paint with your main weapon sometimes, and you'll have to rely on your teammates to paint for you so you can move forward. With the Tri-Nouveau, this weakness is not as prevalent because you can use the Fizzy Bomb to paint to contest map control. It paints extremely well and it's probably the best sub to paint. And even if you're not using it primarily to paint, you can throw a single Fizzy Bomb like if it was a curling bomb to give Tri additional movement, which can be helpful when you do not have the time to use your main weapon to paint in front front of you and you need to get away. The other weakness is that the Fizzy Bomb covers the Tri's lack of range. The Fizzy Bomb travels pretty far, which is going to be extremely useful for when you want to zone people out of a particular area and challenge people that are outside of your main weapon's range. Because of the lethal potential this sub has, people have to respect the space the sub takes in particular areas. So with the Tri, if you can't reach someone and still want to challenge to create area denial or pick people off, use your sub. Even with this sub's versatility, it does come with some weaknesses, but honestly they're not that significant. The main criticism of the sub is that it requires a charge to get its full use, so when you're charging it, you're vulnerable. Someone could shoot at you while you're charging it and you'll be faced with the options of having to throw the Fizzy Bomb early or attempting to fight to stay alive or swim away and give up the space. So yeah, that's its main weakness, the fact that it takes a bit of time and it requires some effort, unlike just simply throwing one of the other bombs like Burst Bomb or Splat Bomb. As long as you're aware of your positioning, these weaknesses aren't something to be worried about. There is also the ability that counters sub resistance up. In version 3.1, Nintendo buffed the ability to nerf the capabilities of Burst Bomb and Fizzy Bomb. For example, just one sub of sub resistance reduces the damage from 50 damage to 46 damage. That means your Fizzy will need to hit all 3 charge shots as opposed to just the 2 charge shots to get the pick. It doesn't fully counter the main sub weapon combo for Fizzy Bomb and Tri-Slosher, but it's just something to be aware of if you're unable to get the pick on the opponent. Moving on to the special, Tacticooler, which is my favorite new special introduced in Splatoon 3. The in-game description of how to use this special doesn't really do it justice, so let me break down the basics and then I'll explain how you should use it in coordination with the Tri and with your team. Tacticooler is a support special at its most fundamental level, where you can deploy a cooler that comes with 4 drinks, 1 for each member of your team. When close to Tacticooler, a player gets a drink and gains various ability points, which increases your movement and decreases respawn penalties. With this special, you get the following abilities for 17 seconds. You get almost 3 mains worth of swim speed and run speed, and almost 6 mains worth of intensify action, quick super jump, quick respawn, special saver, and ink resistance. What that means is that you'll obviously move more faster, you'll be able to squid roll with less momentum, you'll have an easier time going through enemy ink, you'll super jump instantly, if you die with the effect on, you'll respawn in 3.5 seconds, and you will maintain 100% of your special meter that you had at the time of your death. So for example, if you died with a full special meter, you'll maintain the full special when you respawn. All of these abilities will benefit you as a Tri-Slosher player, but before I go into detail on it, let's just cover some general rules for the Tacticooler. First, the Tacticooler's effect does not stack with gear. Whichever effect is stronger, gear or Tacticooler will take priority. For example, I could already be running 3 mains worth of swim speed, the ability will not be boosted with the Tacticooler, meaning I won't have 6 mains of swim speed at the end. Second, the cooler effect activates when you are close enough to the drink. You do not have to instantly grab the drink. You can grab the drink when the cooler is about to disappear, and you'll still get the 17 seconds worth of cooler boost. Third, if you place the Tacticooler on the tower, the duration of the cooler decreases, reducing the time it's available for people to grab the drink. Placing it on the tower does not have any impact on the 17 seconds of the boost, just how long the physical stand is available. Lastly, Cooler is a special that is almost invincible. It has no HP, so no matter how much the enemy shoots at it, it won't get destroyed. This actually is incredibly handy because you can actually use it like a shield where it can protect you from incoming enemy shots. If someone is fighting you, play around the cooler to defend yourself, slosh over the cooler, and do what you can to confirm the pick if someone is really close to you and the cooler. If someone pops a special like the Trizuka, stay close to it and behind your cooler and it'll block the shots for you. But Cooler does have its kryptonite, and that's moving objects that are fixated on the map. If you throw the cooler in front of the tower, for example, the tower will just destroy it. This could be a useful strategy because once the cooler is destroyed, you can instantly charge up another one, so who knows. Just be mindful of where you're placing it and how instantly your teammates can grab the drink. Overall, Tacticooler is a fun special that gives you several abilities for a limited time. This aspect of the special gives several advantages to a main weapon such as the Tri-Slosher. There are 3 things to consider when maximizing the aggressiveness and support potential of the Tri-Slosher and the Tacticooler. Focus on the punish game while remembering you have a safety net and you can support your teammates with drinks. The punish game is a mentality I covered in part 1 where you basically play to exploit your opponent's mistakes, whether it's killing them because they pushed in too aggressively or you catch them in a bad position. So with Tri, since you're moving quicker than you normally do and it's a really good fighter, when you have a cooler effect on, you want to play for picks or at a minimum a trade. Try to find opportunities to fight, don't just simply wait around for a long period of time. If you win a fight, that's huge for your team. If you get a trade, depending on the situations during the match, it can still be positive because you'll respawn faster and you'll be up 1 while the enemy will have 1 down. This sort of playstyle is really good in fast-paced coordination that can keep up with the Tri-Slosher. You want to think of using cooler to further your aggression and quicken your pushes. Get the drink, fight the enemy, create the openings. If you do somehow happen to die with the cooler effect, lucky for you, you have the quick respawn effect that it comes with. The cooler effect will act as a safety net, where the punishment of being taken out by the enemy won't be as significant. So if you die, you come right back, ready to jump back in, maintain the push. I think Tri benefits the most from the quick respawn ability granted by Tacticooler because of how aggro you're going to be playing with the weapon when you have the cooler effect on. Cooler bypasses the special rules of quick respawn. To make it simple, when you have QR, once you splat somebody, you will not get the benefits of respawning faster if you die after the pick. If you have cooler on, you can get as many picks as you want, and if you get picked off by the enemy while the effect is on, you will still get the benefits of quick respawn and you'll respawn in 3.5 seconds. But let's say you're on the opposite end. Let's say you're the one being pressured instead, and you and your team don't have any specials available to stop the push. You can pop Tacticooler to support your team. Think of the following scenario where you're fighting against a team where they have specials intent on killing you. Zipcaster and Inkjet are 2 good examples. If you anticipate the enemy is going to use their specials, or if they're already using it, use your Tacticooler to keep your teammates safe. For example, in this clip, I popped the Tacticooler because I know they're going to use it, and unfortunately it gets one of my teammates, but luckily because they got the cooler effect, they were able to come back and use their special on the enemy team. Basically, you invalidate the whole purpose of Zipcaster and Inkjet by minimizing the impact it has on the field. Because rather than just giving up space and dying and waiting for the respawn timer, you can die, come back quickly, and by the time they're recalled to their special, you're back in the field and you'll have the same amount of special that you died with. And they just used up their special. Overall with the Tacticooler, what you want to think about is how can I help my teammates? There are going to be times where you need to play a bit more patiently than a vanilla Tri who's always trying to go in, hold forward, popping Inkjet from a good position to push the enemy back. With the Tri-Slosher Nouveau, you have to think about how can I set them up with Tacticooler so we can move as a unit together. Another thing you can consider is recycling the cooler. Like other specials, Tacticooler has a cooldown of 8 seconds. This means that within these 8 seconds, you cannot charge up a cooler. But because the cooler effect lasts 17 seconds, once that cooldown is over, you can be painting and you'll be on track to get another cooler and recycle the process. This is a strategy that mostly NZAPs will use, where they paint, throw the cooler, gain the effect, paint, and then throw another cooler. I think it's a bit more difficult with the Tri-Slosher since it's always fighting, likely dying, and it is a 190p special as opposed to a 180p special compared to the NZAP, so it won't get the same output as a Zap. If you find yourself in a situation where you can recycle a cooler or you have the build for it, this is a strategy to consider as the main cooler in your team composition. But like any special, it comes with its drawbacks. The main weaknesses of Tacticooler is that it reveals your location, it's not global, and it's not the most helpful for retakes if used by itself. When you get the cooler effect, you get these arrows surrounding you which can be noticed by the enemy. You can be within your ink, but because of the cooler, you can still be spotted. This is pretty disadvantageous for Tri's sharking playstyle. Tri benefits from picking people off when they don't know where you are, so when you give it a special that reveals your location, this may require you to change how you approach the enemy to close the distance. It's also not global, and positioning is key to maximizing the benefit of this special. Since the special is meant for your team, if your teammates are not in position where you are, it can minimize its effectiveness. With Tri, the mentality is always holding forward and fighting, so if you pop a Tacticooler in the front and no one is around you, only you benefit from cooler, which on some occasions it's okay, but I highly encourage you to put cooler in positions where your team can easily access them. Let's say for example you pop a Tacticooler all the way in the front that's awkward for a backline weapon such as the ballpoint from attaining. You die and now your team can't get the Tacticooler. The ballpoint, who has inkjet ready, gets rushed and now they lost half of their special gauge for inkjet because you put the Tacticooler in an awkward position. If you put the Tacticooler in a position for the ballpoint to grab, and if they still died in that scenario, they at least saved their special that can be useful for your next incoming push. Lastly, this special struggles with retakes. If you pop Tacticooler by itself and go in without much of a plan, this special is not going to help you all the time. People can just wait, spot you because the cooler reveals your location, and boom, you're dead. If you're mechanically better, go for it, but when you're playing against better players, it's not always going to work. Try to pair this special with another one so you can win your fights and get back into mid. Even with these unfortunate drawbacks to Cooler, Tri-Slosher Nouveau is still a good pick because Cooler brings out the most out of Tri-Slosher's aggressive game plan while also being considerate enough to support their teammates with some drinks. Tri-Nouveau can be that cooler player on your team, but it largely depends on what maps you're playing on and team weapon compositions. For this particular Tri-Slosher, when you use it depends on what map mode you're playing and if there's another cooler on your team. If you want to play Tri-Slosher Nouveau, think of maps where Tri excels in punishing the opponent, and where sloshers thrive because of map verticality and obstacles on the stage. For example, Tri-Slosher Nouveau excels in several maps for quick and fast-paced modes such as Rainmaker. To name a few, Manta Maria, Humpback Pump Track, and Undertow Spillway are all good maps with layouts that support Tri-Slosher players, and Rainmaker is a good mode to take advantage of cooler speed and quick respawn effects. When using this variant on Rainmaker, you want to think about the routes that are traditionally taken. For example, throw the cooler in front of the Rainmaker carrier so they can get the drink en route to the checkpoint. You don't always have to play this weapon on Rainmaker, it's just considered the most optimal because of its kit. It's still good on modes that are more neutral heavy, such as Splat Zones. Mako Mart, Mahi Mahi, Flounder Heights are all good stages where Tri-Nouveau just wins over an NZAP, for example. With zones, where you throw your coolers a bit different because there isn't necessarily a checkpoint that you're moving towards, but put the Tacticooler where your teammates are likely to be, and for the most part, it's usually behind the zone. Overall, look at the maps, study the terrain. The more cover and verticality, the better for a Tri-Slosher player, but always pay attention to your team composition because it's important to bring out the best from a Tri-Slosher player. Like I said in part 1, you want to complement the Tri by giving it weapons that paint well, has good range, and keeps up with the pace that the Tri wants to play. The key difference between the vanilla and the Nouveau variant is asking yourself, what weapon composition will benefit the most from Tacticooler, and what other cooler weapons does my team play? Tacticooler mainly benefits from weapons that can go in and fight. So for example, most of your short range shooters, dualies, some splatlings, and other buckets can benefit from it. Charger and other slow moving weapons such as the Hydra, in my opinion, don't really benefit from Cooler unless that anchor weapon has the possibilities of going in and fighting with the team, such as a ballpoint. As for specials, I think Cooler benefits specials that put themselves forward and are likely to die. For example, Tacticooler complements Inkjet really well. If an Inkjet user dies in the middle of their Inkjet, they have the cooler effect, they save whatever special gauge they had left. So when they come back, they can charge for another Inkjet and they'll be back into the action and they'll pop their Inkjet. This isn't just a tip for Inkjet and Tacticooler, you could use it for any special that puts themselves forward and dies. For example, in this clip, Luna uses a Trizuka while having the cooler effect on, dies, but retains whatever Trizuka gauge they had left, and then they'll charge up another special and then use the Trizuka again. In a way, Tacticooler just improves the efficiency of specials. For example, it also grants you run speed, right? So when you're using something like a Tri-Strike, it improves your maneuverability when you're moving on the ground. It also impacts the Inkjet's maneuverability in the air since run speed impacts that as well. Lastly, you also don't want more than one Tacticooler. You want to balance your specials because if you straddle yourself with two Tacticoolers, your retakes are going to be so difficult. The main two Tacticooler weapons used currently is NZAP and Tri-Slosher Nouveau. The decision to choose either an NZAP or a Tri-Slosher Nouveau is dependent on your team composition and your playstyles. If your team benefits more from cooler output, play NZAP. If your team warrants an aggro playstyle, use Tri-Slosher Nouveau. Experiment and see what feels right. When it comes to abilities, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish for you and your team. Are you trying to get kills to create openings, or are you trying to support them with Cooler and Fizzy Bombs, or a little bit of both? For main abilities, Quick Respawn, Special Charge Up, Ink Saver Sub, Comeback, Last Ditch Effort, and Stealth Jump are all the ones you want to primarily consider as main abilities. Quick Respawn is just your old reliable. You might be wondering, if I get Quick Respawn while I have the Cooler effect, why would I need Quick Respawn? Well, because of how Tri plays, you might not have Cooler on all the time, so if you ever die without a Cooler or a pick, QR will still be there to help you. It's an extra safety net in a way. QR should be considered if you anticipate yourself fighting a lot and you are the main slayer on your team. Special Charge Up is more if you want to have more Coolers for your team. Since Tri is a 190p special, just one main of Special Charge drops it to 175p, making it easier to get Coolers for your team. If you have other teammates who are Slayers, you can probably rely on the Special Charge build to be a bit more supportive. As for Ink Saver Sub, let's say you want to throw more Fizzy Bombs to pressure from a distance. If you put one main and 4 subs, that's enough to throw 2 Fizzy Bombs, creating more pressure from a distance. I haven't tried this out too much in competitive play and have used it more for fun, so it's up to you if you want to take this route. As for exclusive abilities, Comeback allows you to play Tri-Nouveau with some type of boost throughout the match if used correctly. With Comeback, when you're picked off by the enemy, you get 10 ability points of various abilities for the first 20 seconds after respawning. And once you get Cooler, you now have 17 additional seconds of boosted abilities. If you die, you'll come back with Comeback, and then you use Comeback to get Cooler, and then now you have 17 additional seconds of Cooler effect. You basically have the ability to have some type of boosted abilities throughout the match. I recommend using Comeback if you're more intent on using a quick respawn build. But let's say Comeback is not your style, you want to improve Tri's ink efficiency. With max LDE, you get improved ink efficiency to the point where you can throw up to 2 Fizzy Bombs. If you do decide to use LDE, consider using at least 3 subs of Ink Saver Sub, since it'll give you 2 additional sloshes after throwing 2 Fizzies with the full LDE effect. Stealth Jump is pretty self-explanatory. Since you die a lot, this ability will make it easier for you to jump back into the action and make it harder for the enemy to spot you. I recommend always running this ability. Ninja Squid is a bit weird for this variant because even with Ninja Squid, it does not hide your Cooler effect arrows. So if you're trying to be even more stealthy with Ninja Squid, it won't work while you have the Cooler effect on. So I don't really think it works that much with this particular variant of the Tri-Slosher. As for subs, like I mentioned, Ink Saver Sub is good to consider to get the 2 Fizzy Bombs, but you can also use Special Power Up and Sub Power Up as subs. One sub of Special Power Up increases the Cooler effect by 1 second, and 2 subs increases it by 2 seconds. So alongside your utility subs, these are 2 that you can additionally add to your gear build. Lastly, I like using Sub Power Up for this particular weapon. Sub Power Up increases the range and throw speed of Fizzy Bomb. I find this helpful in situations where I just want to poke a little bit further. Sometimes I want to have additional help when pressuring from a distance. Overall, when it comes to abilities, experiment, but these are generally what I've seen top level players use and what I've experimented with. Don't fixate yourself on a role based on your build, just know the build is there to help you, and you should always be adapting your role based on the match. This weapon is probably one of my favorite weapons in the game. Splatoon 3 test fire was so much fun, and a lot of it had to do with Tacticooler being introduced, so when I found out that Tri-Nouveau was getting my favorite sub and my favorite new special in the game, I was super excited. I'm glad this weapon came to be, and even though I'm still hoping for a future Burst Bomb kit, I look forward to pushing this weapon in the competitive scene. With that being said, this marks the end of part 2 of the Tri Guide. As for the next guide, please expect a guide covering the Sloshing Machine. This weapon has been a menace since the beginning of the game, but given a few nerfs, we kinda need to get an update on how we should be using this weapon now. Thank you so much for supporting this guide, and with that being said, I'll see you next time.